In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends.
Harley, I don't know what I'm doing.
How so?
I've never been behind before. The Flash is not used to being behind, and I am having to catch up. That is such a strange feeling.
I bet it is. I can definitely sympathize. I frequently get behind, but...
Well, maybe we can help each other out here and catch up, because we are 2 weeks, I guess you could consider this 2 weeks behind on podcasts, eh?
Yeah, actually, pretty much officially, we are 2 weeks behind.
All right. Well, that is solely on my shoulders. I won't let you suffer any of the backlash we might be getting. I just hope people can understand that due to the Calgary Expo up here, it really takes up a lot of my time. There's a lot of pre-event preparations I have to do, and then, of course, the show, I'm working 14 to 16-hour days, and then I got a lot of work afterwards to organize all the video footage and stuff. So, yeah, I'm behind, but...
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot, so. But we're here, and this is going to be a double release week, because we've got the other episode ready to go. It's just got to get finished editing, and that will go up, and then we've got this week's episode, which we all just watched the other day.
Excellent. Everyone's going to have a double dose.
So hopefully that's good. Hopefully that makes up for it. But let's get to it. Let's get, we owe our listeners some podcasting goodness. Let's get to it.
Sounds good to me. Shall I start with ratings?
Sure. Well, what are we covering? It's,
Oh, right. What are we covering?
We are covering Season 1, Episode 14, titled River of Time.
Okay, so now I can do ratings. Sorry, I was really excited. I really liked this episode, actually.
Yeah, so did I. So what did you think? What's your rating? What's your overall impression of the show?
I gave it 9 savage betrayals.
Ooh.
Yeah, I liked. That was pretty good play on words.
That doesn't mean you're going to betray me in the end here, is it?
I don't know. Maybe you'll just have to wait and find out. I'm just kidding. No, of course not. Although I guess that would be in character.
That would be in character, yeah.
I'm not planning on it. But I like I said, I really enjoyed this episode. From the trailer, and I think my recording might cut off even, I don't know, maybe I just didn't remember the trailer, but I felt like it was like hard to kind of get an idea of what the show was going to be about, and so I just really enjoyed the ride. It was kind of like going in blind. I mean, you saw some things in the trailer that you knew at some point, like, Savage was going to get out, so, from the trailer, but other than that, I mean, I just enjoyed a lot of the insight into everyone's backstories, because there's a lot of character development and a lot of them interacting with each other and interacting with Savage, and I thought it was really well done. Until, of course, he escapes, and we'll get to that later.
Right.
What did you think of this episode?
Well, I actually really enjoyed it, too. It was extremely, I found it very dramatic and emotional. That was very moving. So I give this an 8 futuristic time maps printed on parchment. Which
I like that.
It's a little hint of my nitpick of the week. But no, I totally agree with you. The flashbacks to before they left in 2016, just great performances from most of the cast and great scenes with everybody taking turns to have their say with Savage, and just having him sitting there enjoying it, setting them all up and just trying to sew the threads of deception in there to see who's going to first crack. He's baiting them. He was basically baiting them one by one and just waiting to see which one was going to crack. And I love that. I loved how everybody came in and wanted to have their own words with them. Yeah, it was good. I mean, there's a couple of reasons why I didn't give it a higher rating, and we'll get to that later throughout this podcast. But overall, yeah, really, really good. It was a high tension episode and a lot of emotion. And
I agree. I really enjoyed it.
Well, let's dive in. Where do you want to start?
All right. Well, I guess We can start at the beginning, more or less. I'll just kind of make a note that since the flashbacks are really good, we kind of wanted to give those their own section. So we'll kind of save those to the end and then kind of go through the main story first.
Yeah, I think I like that idea. That will, because the flashbacks were such a powerful part of this episode. I think if we group them and talk about them in the end, that'll be really cool.
Awesome.
Oh,
okay.
Awesome.
Well, we of course started with a flashback, so we're going to skip that part for now. But basically, once we get to our present day, and that is in quotes, because we're really technically nowhere at this point.
We should really, what would you call that? It's the present ship time?
I don't know. It's like I struggled with how to term this because they're in the time stream, so they're technically nowhere because they're not a part of the timeline.
Right.
But anyway, we'll just call it present day for lack of a better term.
All right.
But at the very beginning, this is where the team they're really trying to just understand what their next play is going to be because all of them are really uneasy with having Savage on board because the whole plan all along has always been to murder him.
Yeah, to kill him. And I actually agree with the team at this point in the episode. Like, they should just kill Savage and get it over with. It's really just Kendra that's not liking that idea. And I have to agree with them, because killing Savage would kind of end their mission and fix everything that's gone wrong.
Yeah, it would. And, of course, like, Carter, he is going to reincarnate. And so, I mean, Rory points that out straight away. Because Snart was like, well, if we murder Savage, he's like, that was always the plan. This was what we set out to do. And Rory's like, yeah, I mean, Carter reincarnates, so if something happens to him,
so does that answer our question from last week? If they kill Savage, Carter and Kendra still reincarnate.
That is a good point. I don't know. Would Rory know the answer, or is he just saying, well, it doesn't matter? Because he'll reincarnate. I guess it kind of does answer the question. We'll take that as an answer.
Well, yeah. Well, it's a good point you just made, because Rory, he's been time traveling too, so does he have some type of knowledge that they've continued to reincarnate? Or is he just making a guess that, well, you're going to reincarnate anyway, so what does it matter? Maybe he's just hazarding a guess. I don't know. That's why I'm asking, does it answer that question? Because if it does, then they should just kill Savage, let this version of Carter die, or even kill this version of Carter, let him reincarnate, and then he can emerge with his mind intact.
Yeah, I felt like that would kind of solve the problem too. So
yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if we get maybe a little bit more on that since Carter is still around. So maybe we can find that out.
But I mean, I guess they're kind of bordering on today's type of political, how would you say it? Political correctness of euthanizing people that want to die and all that kind of thing. So I guess maybe it's kind of drawing on that a little bit. Yeah,
they can't kill him just for the sake of killing him, even though they know he's going to come back to life. Well, eventually, not like come back to life, but he'll be born again.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I guess maybe we'll see if we get a little bit more info, because he actually isn't. He's still with us, so.
He is, yeah. But it certainly seemed to imply that regardless of whether or not Savage was still alive, that they would both still reincarnate. So we'll have to see.
Well, and then it also plays into we talked about it last episode that, okay, this is a futuristic version of Carter, so how many times has he been reborn while waiting for the 2016 Kendra to die?
Right, that's true.
Can Kendra and Carter, who have been reborn at different times, can they come together, and can their love story continue if they weren't reborn at the same time? Because up to this point, as far as I know, they've been reborn at the same point in time together throughout history.
They certainly seem to imply it at the end, because Carter, he emerges and he gets all of his memories, so we'll probably get more on this next week, but I would assume that he's they're soulmates, so I guess it technically doesn't matter which year they're from. I don't know. We'll find out if that has any play on it or not. I feel like it won't.
At the very least, it's injected a little more interest into me again about their love story, because I think that's what everybody's been getting a little bit tired of, but wanting to know this has re-sparked my interest again.
Yeah, that's true. I completely agree with that statement.
Did you also find throughout this episode, and someone complained about it last week too, it just seems like Rory is back to his old self. He doesn't seem to be utilizing all of his knowledge and his time hunter experience he's gained. It seems he's just fallen right back into being the grunt thug.
Yeah, he kind of has. Every once in a while, he'll have a little nugget of wisdom. I think he's a little less rough around the edges than he was at the very beginning of the season, but more or less, I mean, he really has kind of reverted back to his old self. So, I don't know, is that a function of him being back on the team and being with them, or, I don't know, just kind of falling into old habits?
I don't know. It was just an observation, so I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I liked seeing where he was going. I just hope they don't lose track of that.
Yeah, that's true. Well, maybe they'll get some more opportunities next week.
Maybe.
Let's see, since he's been captured.
Well, you've probably seen a preview for next week, and I have not, so I don't know what's coming.
Yeah, but there's nothing like that in the preview.
Okay.
Or at least, yeah, no. I avoid speculating based on the previews throughout episodes. And if I have seen something and know something, I just act like I don't, because I know not everybody watches them. So don't worry, I won't inadvertently spoil.
Right.
Well, so I liked this next bit where like Ray and Jax are trying to figure out why. Well, I guess they're just doing more research on the fight between him and Ray and the Leviathan. And so I like how Jax refers to him as the Rock'em Sock'em robot, which I think Kelly referred to that in her feedback last week.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. I thought that was a neat tie-in. So we have this Rock'em Sock'em robot, and they've looked into the technology behind it, and apparently it's like light years advanced of even where 2166 should be. So that tells us that Mr. Savage is also traveling through time, or working with people who do travel through time.
Because as far as we knew, 2166 was pretty much the end. He conquers the world.
Yeah.
But
so we don't really know what happens after 2166.
No, but then again, it really isn't the end of the world. It was just a moment in time that he conquered the world. So him and all of his armies continue to still live out their lives in existence. So
right, we just haven't seen anything later than that.
Yeah, so who's to say that they don't continue developing technology and whatever.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, which I guess is a point we've kind of haven't really thought about it. We've more been referring to 2166 as the end, but it really isn't the end of time. It's just the end of the world as we know it, because he takes over.
Yeah, we haven't been exposed to anything more future than 2166, but that doesn't mean Savage couldn't have traveled there.
Yeah, and I mean, if they had given us as you said, if they had have exposed us to something beyond 2166, that would just ruin the whole story. We would know that what's happening with Savage, so they didn't want to show us that, yeah. But yeah, so it was a neat little realization that that giant robot is from the future.
Yeah, even more from the future, like way from the future.
Yeah. I want to ask though, like you say Savage has the ability to travel through time, but has he been traveling through time? Because he keeps talking about how I've spent the last 200 years learning this, and I've spent the last 50 years doing this. Like he mentioned his long play, like his long con. When he was talking to Rip there. So is he actually traveling through time, or?
I don't think maybe as much as our team is, where we're not spending any time in one period, but I think he might be jumping periodically. Like he'll go to a certain point and live for, say he'll start in 1956 and he'll live for 10 years. And then maybe he'll jump up to 1975 or something. I'm not sure. Or maybe he lives through all of it and at some point kind of disappears and goes back and then comes back to the point that he left from. I mean, there's a number of ways he could do it and still allow himself to take advantage of living through that whole time period.
And that's why I'm wondering, because you would think that if someone like Savage had the ability to travel through time, he would jump far into the future, grab all the tech and futuristic weapons that he needs, and then come back in time and wipe things out, do whatever he wants. Just the type of person that he is. I can't see him
patiently waiting.
Well, then again, no, that's not the best way to describe it, because he has been patiently waiting for 4,000 years. Because he does state that it took him 200 years to figure it out. So maybe he doesn't gain the ability to time travel until near the end of time anyway. And he doesn't really find the need to go back or do anything because he accomplished everything he needed to accomplish through his slow, patient endgame plan.
Yeah, so here's the thing. And so we can kind of jump into this interaction between Savage and Rip.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of good stuff in here. And so Savage says that he saw Rip again in 1975. And
Right.
that was the point that he realized he was a time traveler. And then he says he took advantage of having 200 years to figure out how to do this, right?
Okay. So there's the point right there. 200, that pretty much brings us to roughly 2166.
Right. So he uses that time. So at that point, once he hits 2166 and maybe he's figured more stuff out, does he then jump to the future and pick up a few things at that point? And then, like you said, he brings it back and he uses it to wipe out the Earth. Like he creates the Leviathan and he's able to kind of take over. Would that make more sense?
That makes more sense because that also ties into, if we do a little jumping in our show here, it makes more sense tied to the end when we find out what's actually happening with the Time Masters.
Right.
If from the 2166 point is when he learns about time or figures out time travel, he jumps ahead to the future, does his little dealings, manipulation, whatever he does with the Time Masters. Mm-hmm. Because we find out at the end that they reveal that they have to return him to 2166 because that's an important moment for all of them. Mm-hmm. So obviously he jumps from 2166, jumps to the future, manipulates and arranges things with the Time Masters, and then they send him back in time so that he can do whatever it is he has an agreement with them to do.
It's kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah. So
because,
okay, yeah, now it all makes sense for sure why 2166 is kind of the key point in all of the timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for whatever reason, we don't have this reveal yet, 2166 is the key moment, because they keep saying that Rip doesn't have a good long view of history. Uh-huh. And we're like, because we're seeing everything from Rip's perspective, so it's like, what are we missing? And so I really want that last piece of the puzzle to see why they're working with Savage. Like, what advantage could this possibly have?
Oh, totally. I mean, and I thought it was a great way to explain to Rip that they were basically idiots when they showed up in 1975.
Yeah.
They were pretty stupid about the whole thing. They show up and just gave away so many hints at the future to an immortal. Mm-hmm. Which is something that ties into what we talked about all the way back in our pilot episode. Mm-hmm. We had discussed it way back then that, what are they doing? They just, during that whole weapons purchase thing, they just gave away so much to Savage by revealing the ice and heat guns and the atom suit and all this different stuff that he has never seen before.
Yeah, and I think that was also the era that Ray left a piece of it in.
Exactly. So it really, just to bring it all back, Savage saying you showed a caveman fire is just basically saying you guys are a bunch of idiots in 1975.
Oh yeah, which we've all kind of been saying. Yeah. This probably wasn't the best idea, but okay.
Yeah.
It's made for a good show, You gotta go somewhere. Mm-hmm. All right, so the overall goal is eventually they've decided they're going to take Savage to the Vanishing Point. So that's their new course, right? Speaking of traveling throughout history, they keep saying that Savage, he's been difficult to locate throughout history, and we've tried to come up with a number of theories as to why this might be. Right. And Rip now seems to think that he's so difficult to locate because he's traveling through it.
But again, has he been traveling? Or does he just travel to a point in time and then he stays there for 100 years to build his army and then does another time jump? We don't know really what he's doing yet.
Yeah, I know. And that was the confusing part because Rip seems to think that explains everything, which would give us an answer of why he's been so difficult to locate. But on the other hand, we just assumed, he's an immortal and he's lived for 4,000 years. We assumed that he's lived through 4,000 years.
Yeah.
And I guess at one point he would have to, because he has to first get to 1975 to meet Rip again and put it all together.
Yeah, so it
has to take 200 years to figure it out. I don't know, maybe he starts jumping after that point.
I have a feeling that he lived through all of that time from ancient Egypt up until 2166, and it's at that point that he figured out time travel. He jumped into the future to get some tech to make his arrangement with the Time Masters, and then he came back to 2166. I don't think he went farther back than 2166. He already lived that. Everything worked out in his plan, essentially his long play that he brought up. Everything worked up until the 2166 point, so there's no reason for him to go back in time.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, then, I don't know, maybe that was just Rip trying to understand, but he's throwing out an answer, but it's not really an answer.
Yeah, and maybe that's just the writers. Anyway. Yeah, and maybe it's just a way the writers are explaining it for us that, this is why they can't catch him, because he's jumping around, but I don't know.
Yeah.
My feeling is he wasn't jumping around, and in history he was actually living through it.
Yeah.
Hence the long play.
I know, yeah. I mean, that's certainly what's been implied, like, the whole series, is that he's been living through history, through the whole history. He does say that him and Rip have a lot of things in common, and that would be one thing. They're both now are time travelers. Mm-hmm. And he's saying that they're doing what they must to save the world. And, as Savage sees it, he's bringing about his version of peace. What the world should be. I don't know. Can we call it peace? It's an awful lot of destruction to get to what? I mean, I guess we haven't seen the aftermath yet.
Well, if you go back to the Per Degaton episode, they're kept saying that the world is overpopulated, they can't feed them, they can't medically take care of them, and Savage at that point is like, we've got to thin the herd. Because, so that's his way of saving the world now, is he is reducing the Earth's population so that it can survive.
Yeah, just making a hard decision.
Yeah, so essentially I can't argue with that, because we talked about this a couple episodes ago, this whole idea of the world being overpopulated and we can't sustain them right now. I really can't argue with that perspective.
He's not wrong, but it's definitely morally black, that's for sure.
Yeah, like killing a bunch of people to ensure the future. That is a... I
mean, how do you decide who to kill? How do you decide who lives? I mean, it brings up a whole lot of moral questions.
Well, for us it does, but obviously the people in power, which is again related to the here and now, the government and all the people with the money, they already have a list of who they think is worth keeping, and none of us fall on that list. It's only the rich and powerful that get to continue on, and that's the whole talk about what's going on now. And me and Patty Spivot just had a big conversation about that the other day, again, about all this kind of stuff. And one of the theories that I saw that I totally had not even realized or thought of before was those, have you heard of chemtrails?
No.
Well, as a kid or any time now, when you see airplanes flying in the sky and they leave those long white lines, those trails.
Oh, yeah.
Well, apparently, one of the big theories out there right now is that those are chemical sprays that they're releasing into the atmosphere and into the air, and it's a way of controlling us via illnesses and diseases or what have you, whatever kind of concoction they're throwing, but they're called chemtrails, and it's blatant and in our face and in the wide open that's what they're doing. It's not just the jet stream. They're actually contaminating our air.
Huh.
So Never
heard of that before.
It was fascinating when I read that. I was like, oh, wow, that, as a conspiracy theory, it makes complete sense.
It's definitely a conspiracy theory. That's for sure. That's pretty crazy.
Anyway, so that just ties into this whole idea that we've been talking about already, with how the show is throwing in futuristic storylines that actually tie into what's happening here and now in regards to the government and its control and its need to thin out the population.
Very interesting.
I mean, it brings up the question that you have here. What is Savage's endgame? Because for me, it's hard to say. I really don't know what his endgame is at this point.
I know. I mean, I don't think any of us do, and I think that's the point. But I am really curious as to what it is.
Yeah.
So it'll be definitely very interesting to see.
Has he manipulated the Time Masters so he can live at the end of time and be in control of all of time? Is that what he is trying to do?
I don't know. I don't even have a good theory. I'm just really curious to see how it all plays out and ultimately what his purpose was.
Well, that could be your couch session of the week. I think we've missed one or two of those, have we not?
Oh yeah, we've missed a couple. I didn't have any good questions, so.
Well, how about that one? What is Savage's endgame? There you go.
All right, throw that in there. So I guess let's kind of jump into the next section here. So,
okay.
I mean, Rip and Savage, this whole meeting between the two of them, it gave us a lot of information, and it brought up as many questions as it gave us answers, which I think is always a good thing. But so after they have this meeting, this is when Rip he's really pushing the Waverider to kind of get to the Vanishing Point. And things start to go wrong. I mean, Sara kind of was talking to him and his remarks to him. She's like, removing Savage from the timeline. She's like, that's had no effect. Like, your family still dies.
Yeah, the timeline hasn't changed at all.
No, it hasn't.
And I found actually this whole, when I got to the end of the episode, and we'll get to it, I really wasn't surprised because if you look back over the episode, they were laying hints throughout it as to what really is going to happen. And this was one of the big ones. It's like, okay, you've removed Savage, nothing changed.
There's a lot of foreshadowing.
There's a lot of foreshadowing that he is in league with the Time Masters or something. He has somehow arranged something with them.
Yep, because it's like I completely agree.
How can removing him not affect the timeline at all?
Exactly.
I mean, that was a huge hint right there.
I felt like that was too. But this kind of brought up a question for me on this when I was watching it the second time. It's like, do we assume that Rip, he's gone rogue after his family died? Or was his family killed because he went rogue before then?
Yeah, that's a good question. I saw you put that in there and I was thinking about it. And what I came up with is I think he goes rogue after his family was killed. Just because as a Time Master, you're never supposed to fall in love anyway.
Right.
And because he broke the rules and did fall in love, I think he was already on a bit of a breaking point himself because he was already in panic about protecting his family from the Time Masters and not getting in trouble. And then his wife ends up giving up her position as a Time Master to take care of their son and all that kind of stuff. I think it's just that point to lose them after already making this huge decision to go against the Time Masters and his wife making the huge decision to give up her position. That's why he's going after Savage, is just because of the amount of the impact of making those big decisions affected his snapping to go after Savage once he killed them. Does that make sense? Did I get that out properly?
I think so, yeah.
That was really
just lots of questions. Alright, so now we kind of start hitting the points in the episode where everybody kind of has their little confessional moment with Savage.
Yeah. And these were great. These were great scenes. Everybody that came in to confront Savage about something, each time they did it, or each with each character, it was a great scene. None of them were poorly written. I definitely give kudos to the show writers on this one.
Yeah, no, I thought that it was great. Especially between Savage and Sara. Given the events that have transpired on Arrow, he asks, have you spoken to your sister lately?
Oh my god, he mentioned Laurel. Yes.
He did. And I was like, oh, is he going to talk about it? And then he doesn't say anything after that. I was like, so I think that might be the nod that we're getting. But I don't know if
that was the connection, yeah. I don't think we're going to get more of that unless Sara jumps back, unless they go back to a point in time where she finds out. Because right now she obviously doesn't know yet. She did not bite on that bait at all. So I don't know, does this allow you and me to talk about it yet? Can we talk about what happened on Arrow? Because I know Kelly's brought it up twice.
I know, she's brought it up twice, but I mean, they kind of gave us a nod. Do we want to talk about it in depth? Because it's kind of Arrow related.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not like it hasn't been covered to death, literally.
Well, what if we've got a bunch of Legends viewers that don't watch Arrow and they're wondering, what about her sister? What about Laurel? Maybe people don't know.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and say right now, spoiler alert for Arrow. If you are for some reason behind and you are still watching Legends, turn off the podcast now. And we will spend 2 minutes, or go forward like 2 minutes. We will spend 2 minutes. Go. You start.
All right. So, this whole remark about, have you spoken to your sister Laurel yet? I think he was being very snide in that, because he knows at this point Sara does not know Laurel has been killed.
I agree. That's exactly what I thought he was referring to.
Uh-huh.
And I've been wondering how that was going to impact her, and if that was going to be how we get her off of the show, since there have been rumors of a completely new team for season 2.
Right. She wants to go and check what's going on, or possibly step back into the Black Canary shoes and help Team Arrow out.
Certainly gives her an out.
Yeah. There's a few ways they can go with it. So, man, I just Savage is cruel. He really likes to pull the puppeteering strings for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think that had every single Arrow fan going, oh no, he's going to tell her. But it was good.
All right.
Good tie-in.
2 minutes up. You guys can all tune back in.
Actually, that was only a minute. We did good.
Oh, there you go. Please come back.
I'm sure people will hear it. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They'll back it up.
So here he is. Savage is trying to plant the seeds of doubt, and he is so good at manipulating. I mean, that's what he does. That's how he controls his armies and controls everything he's ever gotten his fingers into, is because of his manipulation skill.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's so manipulative. I mean, just everything he says to Sara. I mean, it's actually a pretty quick scene, but he's, saying, does she blame him for that Rip is putting the lives of his family first, before them, before his crew? He's putting himself before the crew.
Yeah. This is the start of it. This is where Savage attempts to have the team tear itself apart. He's manipulating all of them, one by one, as they're coming in to see them. He is finding out what their weaknesses are, or what it is that's bothering them, and he is baiting them to see who is going to crack first.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, and then Rip confronts Sara. Sara, she confronts him about it, and he's like, "Yeah, you're not wrong.
No,
I probably would, put my family first before all of you." I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's not something that you want to admit to your crew." But
no, and it really pissed Sara off too. The look on her face, she looked pretty angry.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, is this the point in time that Rip lets them all know the jump ship has a one-time use time drive on it?
I think so. It's right around this point in the episode, because they're having this conversation, and then the Waverider kind of like freaks out and breaks down, and then we realize that the time drive is not working. So he sends Jax to fix it, and Martin's Stein is very confused confused. He's concerned. Yeah. He's like, "What if it doesn't work again?" He's like, "Don't worry, the jump ship has like a one-time trip back to 2016, so you can all go back." Right.
And the team's pretty upset. I mean, you can't really blame them. Rip's never sticking to his plans at all.
What plan?
And they keep paying the price. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And Rip is starting to annoy me, because just his lack of leadership skill and quality. He's just not a good leader at all, and it's starting to eat away at me. I'm not a fan of Rip right now anymore in this entire show. And to call back to a question that you posted a poll on, is who is the most expendable on the show? For me, it's Rip right now. We could do without him.
I think a lot of people are starting to think that, especially after this episode where Sara pilots the Waverider. We're like, oh, well, what do we need Rip for? I mean, come on. Let's just leave it blocked up at the Vanishing Point. Who cares?
Yeah. But it's even, again, and I mentioned this before, Arthur Darvill's performance. I can't buy it. Even when Rip tries to get angry and he tries to lay down a threat and he tries to, be all intimidating. He doesn't pull it off. He doesn't scare me. He doesn't intimidate me. He just doesn't seem like a tough guy at all. He doesn't have the right look for it. And, you compare it to Rory. When Rory gets mad and upset and wants to push you around, you buy it totally because he has that look and that sound to him. But Rip just doesn't come across to me that way. And tie that in with him starting to bother me as not being a good leader. I am getting tired of the Rip character.
Yeah, I think he was definitely designed to be a very flawed hero. Because the only reason that he's doing this is to save his family, and he claims through doing that they will save the world. So it's always been flawed to begin with, his whole plan. And there's not even really a plan. It's just more of a general, we have to kill Savage, then everything will be okay. But he doesn't really know that, and I think this episode was kind of a testament to that.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I think half of it for me is the performance of the actor. I'm just not buying him. It seems to me like, especially this episode was a testament to all the other actors, and it's like I said in my opening statement, I said most of the performances were fantastic. They all were, except for the actor playing Rip. I just find that he is being left behind in growing into their character and really developing a lot of emotional connection and attachment to us, the viewers. I am losing my connection to Rip because I'm no longer caring about him and his mission and like, even the scene at the very end when he's locked away in the jail cell and he starts having his little freak out and smashing on the force field barrier. No! I kind of chuckled. I'm like, oh my God, you look pathetic. I'm not enjoying his performance. That's me. I'm just not enjoying his performance.
I don't think I'm really in the same camp with you there.
Nope.
I think the character, I don't think we're supposed to like the character. Okay. And I think what they're doing with him is to just show him to be, he is what he is. He's not a great guy. He's a terrible leader. Okay. And I think at this point that's the point, and they're trying to set him up for redemption. You can see it a little bit at the end of this, towards the end of the episode when he explains that he jumped in front of a laser beam for Kendra or whatever.
Right. And
so that was him not putting him before his crew. And so I think that was a good step.
That was the best moment for him this whole episode, is when he sacrificed himself for Kendra. That moment there, I was like, okay, Rip, that was cool.
Yeah, no, and I'm actually enjoying his performance. I actually kind of liked that ending scene because it just gets out all of his, to me, it showed all of his like frustration and the fact that he was completely betrayed by this council, that even though he is no longer a part of it, he still had faith that they would do the right thing. And he's been completely betrayed by that. And so he has no idea what to do. And all he can do is just scream and bang on the window because he's, locked up or whatever. But I don't know. It did it for me. I thought it was a nice way to end the episode because it just leaves you with, okay, now what?
Now what? Yeah. No, I understand all the points you made where the character is coming from. I think it's the performance of the actor.
It's not doing it for you.
He's not doing it for me. All the other actors have grown into their characters and really developed, and I'm feeling I'm feeling a stronger emotional connection to them because I'm witnessing them grow into their roles and really take them on. And Jax is a perfect example of that, which we'll get to that in a sec. Yeah. I just find Rip has not grown. It's the same lackluster performance of him trying to be a tough guy and trying to stand up and I can do all. He just isn't believable to me as a tough guy, I guess.
I completely agree with that. I don't think he's believable as a tough guy either. I don't think he's supposed to be. Yeah. I completely agree with that.
Anyway, there's a character nitpick for you. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's jump into Jax.
Yeah, because Jack's trying to fix the time drive, and it exploded of some kind or something, but he got hit by a temporal radiation blast. That's
what they called it. So
yeah,
we assume he fixes the time drive, and there's some sort of surge, and then it sends out a blast, I guess.
Yeah, which causes irreversible aging from the inside out.
That was very interesting.
Yeah. I wasn't sure, like, when the moment happened, I was like, oh, no, okay, well, it's just an electrical surge, he'll be fine. But then they explain that, because he's kind of doubled over, he's in pain, what's going on, they're dragging him to the medical bay, and then they explain that he got hit by this temporal radiation, and now his organs are aging at irreversible sped up rate. I can't remember how they worded it.
Yeah, I mean, basically it was his aging has been accelerated quite some time. I mean, he's 20, and then they'd say eventually that he's basically 63.
Yeah, his 60s.
Yeah, so
because he makes a little quip. I don't feel the day over 60.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but
Ian states it's irreversible. She said there's nothing she can do.
Yeah, and great job on the makeup effects people, because he no longer looked like a young kid. It was a great makeup effect to make him look much older than he actually was. And a good performance by the actor playing Jax too, because he was playing kind of withered and a little more feeble, and he was hunched over, and it was great. It was a great sequence all around to show the effects of the aging and what it's doing to him. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it sort of brings up the question about, like, did Rip send Jackson to do it because he knew that there was this risk? Kim and Sarah have this conversation probably a few scenes later, but Rip's like, did I do that? Did I know something bad would happen? He's like, I knew how dangerous it was. He's like, did I purposely send him in there because I was trying to save myself? This is another instance where he's putting himself before his crew.
Yeah, and he kind of admits to it too, doesn't he? He said, doesn't he say, I knew it was a risk, so that's why I sent Jax?
More or less. I mean, he says he knew it was a risk, and he's wondering, is that the reason that I sent Jax to do it, or did I send Jax because he was the best man to get the job done?
Right.
You know what I mean? I felt like there was an internal struggle, and he was saying there's a distinct possibility that I did it to save my own skin, but he wasn't necessarily saying he consciously did it to save his own skin.
Well, that makes me question, what did Rip do before Jax was on the ship? I mean, when the ship needed these repairs, did he do it himself?
Oh, yeah, that's true. He probably did them himself.
Okay.
Yeah, I would absolutely assume that. So then he probably did, consciously or not, he still sent Jax because he knew there was a risk.
Mm-hmm. The thing that I thought was really cool is we saw, as they were dragging Jax to the medical bay, that the camera showed his watch real briefly, and it was glowing. Yeah. And the hands on the watch were spinning like at just alarming rates. And I thought that was a really neat, kind of like a marker to show you how fast he's getting old, because the watch seemed to be matching. It was spinning at the same rate as he was growing old.
As he was aging. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, because by the time they get him to the med bay, they set him down and they've got, he looks like he's in his 60s.
Yeah, so I just thought it was neat. It was just a neat little effect. I don't think anything's going to really come out of it. It was just a neat little effect to, as I said, mark how fast he's aging. It was a visual for us to see. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too. This is where we start to see Rory and Snart getting extra concerned. They've been really concerned about everything that's kind of happening. The fact that, Savage is on the ship and Snart has this really uneasy feeling, and he kind of has this sixth sense that something's going to go horribly, horribly wrong.
Meanwhile, Rory's sitting there stuffing his face.
I know, full of food. He's like, these snacks are terrible. That was pretty good.
He's just got food hanging out of his mouth as Snart is talking to. It was pretty funny.
I know. That was really funny. And then, of course, then this happens. And so then they get really upset about what's happened to him. They're like, this is Rip's fault. How can we trust him? This is all going sideways. This is not what was planned.
No, and it's just the concern that they show for Jax. I mean, as much as it was a tension-filled moment and things were happening quickly, it was just really neat to see that they definitely have built some bonds amongst them. Mm-hmm. Their bonds have formed amongst these guys, and especially with Rory, Mick, and Jax, because they've done a lot of little missions together, the three of them.
Yeah. And it's nice to see Rory being okay with being a part of the team, whereas just before he becomes Kronos, that was the thing that drove him away, mm-hmm. and drove him and Snart apart. Sorry, that rhymed. That sounded kind of funny. But that wedge is what kind of caused him to become Kronos in the first place. So in one way, that is a nice change. He's come back and he's more a part of the team.
Yeah.
And feeling concern for others on the team.
Yeah. No, it was really nice to see.
they all go and confront Rip, of course, because, I mean, he's never been able to hold the team together because he's not a true captain. And, you know, this is what we just talked about. Yeah. He's putting himself and his family ahead of his crew. And so they go and confront him, and they're like, we are not happy. This is not the plan. This is going badly. And he's like, well, okay, you can leave. You can go back to 2016. Your presence here has always been voluntary. He's like, you don't have to stay. And I guess that was something that I had kind of forgotten about, was that it was optional. They didn't have to come in the first place, and they don't have to stay. They can leave anytime.
And he could bring them back whenever they wanted, too.
Yeah, exactly. But true to form, Rory and Snart are the two that want to leave, and Sarah's like, no, I'll stay behind. I will help you with this fight. Or I'm not one to run away from a fight, something like that.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised because Snart's been kind of leaning, the last 5-6 episodes, he's been really leaning heavily towards helping finish this mission. So I was a little bit surprised that he was that fast to want to jump ship and say, nope, you know what, we're done, we're getting out of here.
I kind of wasn't, just because the plan was to kill Savage, and Savage wasn't killed. And so he's like, this is not going down how I thought it would. I have this terrible feeling.
That's true.
He's ready to be out.
That's true, actually. Yeah, you just reminded me that when him and Rory were talking, he's like, yeah, I'm getting that. Remember that mission we did, or remember that job we did way back when? He says, I'm feeling the same way. Let's get out of here.
Yes, remember Alexa.
Yeah, so and that's actually kind of cool too, because he's also reconnecting his partnership with Rory at that point too. That it's going to be the two of them having each other's backs. They're going to get out of this together. So that was actually, it was very subtle, but it really was a strong subtlety.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I agree. So then, of course, we come to the first scene with Savage and Ray. Mm-hmm. Not the terrible second one. But anyway, so through all of these, there's a couple of different scenes where we're watching Kendra basically unsuccessfully trying to talk Carter into being Carter. Mm. And it's not working.
No, and Ray was actually there helping her in the beginning, too.
Yeah, he was, until, well, there's a scene that he witnesses that puts him over the edge, but we're not quite there yet. But prior to that, because he has to have this conversation with Savage first.
Yes, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, so, because the scene happens directly after that. So, he wants to know, like, how to release Carter. He's like, let me know how to, free his mind and get him back. And Savage is like, do you really want to do that? Because once you do that, you're going to lose her forever.
Mm-hmm. Savage is manipulating him. He's picking on exactly what he knows Ray is going to bite on. Yep,
exactly. And we've all been saying this. We're like, what is the point of the Ray and Kendra story? And was this enough of a payoff for as much time as they have spent on it? I don't really know. But
well, it was a big chunk of this episode too. If you look back on it, there was a lot of scenes dedicated to Ray and Kendra.
I know, and so that's Savage's ultimate manipulation of him is using his love for Kendra against him. And he even points out, apparently, and we have to take him at his word, I don't know if this is true or not, that in one of her earlier lifetimes, Shayara fell in love with Savage. And then she ran into Carter, and she emerged, and then it destroyed that relationship.
Yeah, but to me, that was such a good little historical tidbit. I totally bought it. I totally believe Savage, because it makes sense. Why... If Kendra hasn't emerged, why wouldn't it happen? Why couldn't she fall in love with Savage? She could fall for anybody when she hasn't emerged yet.
Yeah, because she doesn't remember the past.
And, I mean, back in that time, you've got someone like Savage who's professing his love to her and promising her, ultimate happiness. Sure, she's going to fall for him. Why not? I mean...
Yeah, and I think they're both relatively powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go even farther back to Egypt, their very first lifetime, before he became passionately obsessed with her and then betrayed them, they all were friends. I mean, he was like their advisor, and she trusted him and cared about him as a friend and person within her royal household. So they do have a connection that would definitely tie into that she could fall for him at some point in history.
Yeah, and so I thought that was interesting. And of course it, plays right into everything that's been going on.
Yeah.
And we know, and we've all been saying this, well, once Carter comes back, she's going to kick Ray to the curb, which is exactly what happens.
And I was actually, my heartstrings were being tugged on for Ray here. I was feeling really...
I felt bad for him.
Felt really... And a great performance by Brandon Routh again. You could see the turmoil and the struggle because he's... I mean, it jumps around a couple times from him being hurt that Kendra is leaving him for Carter again, and then he's being reminded of his previous love that was lost, and Savage is kind of throwing that in his face.
Mm-hmm.
Now he has to somehow stand up for Kendra at the same time. Like, I can't imagine the amount of turmoil on somebody's heart. That was...
I know.
Poor guy.
I know, I felt for him.
Yeah.
Yep. Because as soon as he has that conversation, this is the scene where he witnesses Kendra trying to coax Carter out.
With that love poem that basically immortalized them as,
Yep.
soulmates throughout time. So it was, and I don't blame for his reaction, even though Kendra comes running after him. You have to understand. No, he doesn't. It's obvious. And what I think the line that he uses was, she's trying to say that she can be with him, and he's like, what, until as your stand-in? What do you call it? The Carter stand-in or something?
Oh, yeah. I don't know the exact words that he used, but I mean, he was more or less saying, as your as your, I think he did. Did he say stand-in? He might have said stand-in.
It was like stand-in or placeholder.
Placeholder, yeah, something like that for Carter, which is essentially what was happening, except at that time it wasn't a placeholder because Carter was dead. But now we've jumped to a timeline where Carter is not dead. And so, yeah, he's basically just a placeholder.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
she can love him, but it's not the same connection. She's still going to leave him for Carter because Carter's her soulmate.
Exactly. So that's what I was trying to get at. Yeah, it's why I was feeling for Ray, and I don't blame him for becoming upset with her, because he is nothing but a placeholder until Carter comes around. And poor Ray. Like, I was not liking Kendra at this point. She should have smacked Savage with the mace and finished it all off. She should have, she screwed up everything just because of that bond with Carter in one lifetime. I mean, but I guess, who am I to say? I've never been in love with somebody for 4,000 years, so.
Well, that's true.
That's probably a pretty powerful thing you can't let go of. So, yeah, as upset as I can get at Kendra, I can't really argue it, I guess, either.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd situation. Well, we do, Dr. Stein does go to see Savage as well. Because I think just about everybody, I think Snart and Rory are the only two that don't go and talk to him, but
nope.
He is trying to find a cure for Jax. And so he brings up this whole scene that we saw with that immortality ceremony where he makes his followers live a little bit longer. He gives them some longevity.
By drinking Carter's blood.
Yes, but apparently the key was they had to drink Carter's blood. It wasn't really anything to do with Savage per se.
No, and I think Stein was just reacting on emotion right now because of his strong fondness for Jax now. They've really grown a strong relationship together, and that's because of their molecular bonding as well, but he is really fond of Jax, and he is basically acting out of emotion right now and will do anything to help save him. And this is why he comes to see Savage, but it's not going to work. No,
it's not, but he still gets an idea.
He gets an idea from the conversation,
Yeah, and so ultimately he decides, I can just send Jax back through the time stream, and that's going to reverse the aging effects.
Because of?
He calls it quantum retrocausality.
That is a tough... I wonder how many times it took him to say that properly, because wow, what a...
Yeah, I don't know. Just for kicks and giggles, I did some quick Googling, because this is not something I'm very familiar with, and I think it is highly, highly theoretical.
Say it isn't so. Some type of time travel related language, and Harley does not know what it is.
I know, I'm slacking here, but I don't know, it's whatever it is, if it's really a thing or could possibly be a thing. It's, some people would consider it the key to time travel, I guess. I don't know. I haven't done a lot of reading up on it, but I may now because this show has piqued my interest. But I mean, basically they're saying, if you go back, you reverse what's already happened. So you're kind of, sending them back through the time stream will, in theory, reverse the aging effects, I guess. Mm-hmm. Theoretically. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
And you didn't find anything out about it? There was nothing related to that idea?
Oh, there's a lot of stuff related to that idea. I would need to spend a lot of time reading. Type it into Google. A lot of stuff comes up.
Well, I'd like to hear you nutshell it for us next episode. What you think about that idea.
Okay, I'll write that down. Something to do. Research quantum retrocausality.
Yeah, that's just a cool sounding thing.
It is.
So he figures that all out and decides, without even confronting the team about it at all, he just decides, I have to save Jax, and he leads him to the jump ship, fooling him that there's something there they can use to help him. And once he gets him on board and Jax starts to realize that, hey, wait a sec, there's nothing here that's going to help me, then he jabs him in the back of the neck with a sedative. And his plan is... Again, yeah. Yeah, and that'll... of course, Jax doesn't take kindly to the idea, but his plan is to throw him on the jump ship, send him back to 2016, hence this quantum retrocausality should reverse his aging and essentially save him. So he is marooning the rest of the team and likely killing himself, so he just sacrificed himself because he needs that second half of the connection to the Firestorm Matrix to survive. So yeah, he sacrificed himself, he maroons the team, all to save Jax. And I don't know about you, Harley, but for me, that sequence when he shoves him into the seat, locks him down, exits the ship, and punches in the code to send him flying, and you see Jax struggling to get out and banging on the wall and screaming, no, 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 Gray, what are you doing? It had me in tears. I was seriously crying. It was a powerful scene that I didn't expect, and the music and the acting and the emotions of it.
You can't do this! If we're separated, you'll die! I've already lived my life, Jefferson. Now you must live yours. Give my love to Clarissa. Tell her I'm sorry. She deserved a proper goodbye. Gray, no! No!
That to me was the best part of the entire episode, and I actually rewatched it a couple times because the tears were streaming down, and I watched it again and the tears streamed faster, and I watched it again and I'm actually grabbing it. I'm like, oh my god, like holy cow. I could not believe the power of that scene. It was phenomenal, and that really, really set in how much growth Jax has done over this season.
Yeah, how much they both have, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Stein kidnapped him in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you think about it that way.
But what about you? I mean, did that scene get to you? Did that really affect you?
I will confess I did not shed a tear throughout the episode. However...
Cold, Harley. Harley Quinn's just cold.
I know, me and Miss Ice were one and the same sometimes. No.
Old Flash here is just a big sap. I get all caught up in those emotional moments. Yep.
I do too. This just, for some reason, this one it didn't quite get me to that point. I have been known to cry over character deaths. And that, yeah, but I'm not to take away from the scene. It was absolutely fantastic. I loved the performances by both actors. I thought it was very well done. It was very touching. Mm-hmm. So.
Tense and sad.
It was.
Well, that's okay. You know what, Patty Spivot's the same. Every time we're watching stuff together, I'm the one crying and she's sitting there just eyes open and no effect on her at all. Yeah, like she likes it, but so I've yet to see her cry at, I think actually the only time I saw her tear up a little bit was on The Flash when
If it's about this past week, don't talk about it because
Nope.
I've not seen anything this week.
No.
Okay.
Season
Okay.
1. Season 1 when he goes, I think it's the finale episode when he goes back to save his mom and has to watch her die.
Oh.
And then he's holding her in her arms at the end there and saying his goodbye. That, I think, brought her to teary eyes.
If I recall, I think that one got me too.
Yeah, so.
No, there's some on Arrow that have gotten me.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh. Like recently?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
How could you not? Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Like 5 minutes of that. 5 minutes, like minute and a half.
it was pretty powerful too. Yeah.
Good.
So, yeah, hey, this scene did it for me.
Yeah, it was a great scene. Great. But
So now we jump to Ray going back to seeing Savage.
I know, and this is the point where everybody saw it coming, and as soon as he turns around and says, "Carter would face me like a man," and I was like, "No!"
Oh. That's all it took, yeah, because, yeah, I mean, hand it to Savage. He knew exactly what strings to pull.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw that Ray was on the tipping point, and it's just a matter of which way do I push him.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that was it. And I mean, I can't totally blame Ray because of what we already talked about, the amount of emotional tugging he is going through from different directions all at once. You can't really be mad at him for losing his cool and stepping in. I think any one of us might have done the same thing. You're so wound up in your emotions that you just want to go in there and kick someone's ass because
I know.
you've had enough. And hey, man, that was a.
Oh, I mistyped this, by the way. I meant to delete this first half.
Yeah, you're like you.
Because I moved the part that was the nitpick.
I just like his right hook. What the hell?
He just walks right in there and he just like decks him. I was like, oh, that's amazing. That was so good.
Because we really haven't seen him throwing a lot of good punches like that. He's usually fighting in his suit. So to see him actually that he's learnt how to fight, because yeah, he threw a hell of a right cross and or a hook, whatever you want to call it, and then he laid him out a few times. It was great, but then you see Savage is just kind of toying with him anyway.
I know.
Because
you know he can't take him. Yeah. I mean, it's great that he got to land a few punches because that made us feel good.
Made us feel good. Mm-hmm.
You know it's not going to end well.
No. I mean, Savage is too well trained. He's got 4,000 years of fight experience, so
I know.
He was just waiting for his moment, just looking for that open chance so he could reverse the whole thing. And what's he do? He puts him in a sleeper hold and knocks him out.
I know.
But, hey, great performance by Brandon Routh there, because he actually looked like he was out cold. His body went completely limp and looked like...
Yeah, he did.
It was great. I mean, yeah, just a great performance on being knocked out and totally limp, as I said. Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Aside from the fact that it made me angry. I mean, like I said, I kind of did know that one was coming, because they show you in the trailer from the previous week that like Savage was walking through the Waverider. Mm-hmm. And so, at some point he has to get out. You're like, okay, how's it going to happen? And then as soon as Ray opens that door, you're just like, oh, come on. But
that's true.
I mean, honestly, if you don't watch, it's not a bad thing if you're not able to watch trailers. I mean, they do give some stuff away for sure. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it's still a fun ride to see how they get there.
Yeah, that's true.
So as we're kind of winding everything down, we've got a couple different things going on. So we'll just kind of hit on a couple of them and then talk about the end, and then we'll get to the flashbacks. But
okay, sure. So
we've got our team kind of split in two. We've got Rip, Sara, and Martin. They're going to land the ship because they can't use Gideon because now that Savage has escaped and Carter he's freed Carter, they've taken out Gideon. Mm-hmm. And so they have no assistance. So this is where we're talking about the time stream is like a river. And so
did they actually say that though? That's what
they did.
Did they? Okay, because I missed that. And that actually is kind of cool. I mean, if the time stream is like a river, then the Waverider is like a boat.
Yep.
Hence
it was amongst all those paper charts.
Okay.
From your rating /nitpick.
It's a cool idea. If the time stream is a river and then the ship is a boat, hence the name Waverider. Okay, it all makes sense. That's kind of cool. I just missed them saying it's like a river.
Yeah, no, they definitely said that. And that's also a very common analogy to explain, like, kind of how, like, time flows.
Right.
It's just a common one that people use.
Right.
At some point, we get Sara taking over as captain because Rip decides to go and help the rest of her team, who, minus Jax, of course, who is fighting Savage.
Right.
And Carter, sort of. So, we get some great fight scenes.
We do. Again, the close quarters combat, which I liked from when the Pilgrim episode in the cop station. Again, you're in the hallways of the Waverider. Mm-hmm. Just really cool fight scene because they're in close quarters and they have to fight a little bit differently. It's not so wide open. What I thought was redeeming for Savage, because we've all been a little bit sour on him and getting a little bit tired of him. The fact that he's in close quarter combat with almost the entire team, he's able to handle all of them, and that kind of brought back the feeling that he is a great villain. This showed how imposing and dangerous he can be and why they've been after him all this time, because he can single-handedly take on the whole team.
Oh yeah, he was very formidable throughout the entire episode, which I really liked. I was like, okay, I'm not over him anymore. Well, I mean, it still needs to wrap up by the end of the season, but it was very good. It was very well done, and I was very happy with what they did with the character. They made him seem more formidable again, and like, he's this great, big, terrible, big bad that can outsmart everybody, and yes, he does, because he does it yet again. But we actually got to see more of the inner workings behind it, so I liked it. So we get Carter back, finally. Throughout all of these fight scenes.
Real quick, too. I mean, it was a quick flash montage of him emerging.
Yeah.
You know, they sped it up for the moment to bring him out of it, right? And I'm wondering if was it Savage having Kendra by the throat that helped him emerge?
That's what I think, because he was harming her.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that was what it was, and so he emerges rather quickly, and it was cool. I mean, his wings come out, and he gets in a few good shots, because Carter he should be a decent warrior, but it just seemed like he can never stand toe-to-toe with Savage. Like, even the other members of the team fought better against Savage. He always seems to just...
I know.
He's hopeless against Savage, and...
a little bit.
Yeah, so, I mean, he gets in a few hits and gets stabbed yet again.
I thought he was dead.
Did you? You thought that
was
a killing blow? Yeah.
I did. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Again? Really? It looked like he stabbed him in the stomach. It was hard to tell.
Yeah, well, it looked like it wasn't. I thought it was kind of like in the side.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, the way he got him was in the side there. Still, it could be a killing blow.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, he goes down, but then Kendra jumps up and she jumps in, you know, oh no, Carter, and she jumps in, and even her fight, like she punches, as an example, she punches with her right fist, right hook, and then she hits him on the backhand with the same fist, and then following the backhand, she hits with her left, and then follows through with the backhand, and it's like, boom, boom, boom. I was like, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
The only thing I didn't buy was her shove, because she didn't, very minor nitpick, she shoves him, after the multiple punches, she just gives him a shove to the chest, and he goes flying back, and hits the barricade thing, and knocks him out. I didn't buy the shove because she's not strong enough to shove someone like that unless she has her wings out, and her wings didn't come out.
Oh, so like, if she doesn't have any wings, she doesn't have like her goddess strength or whatever.
Her goddess strength, or the momentum, or what's the word? Not the momentum, but the...
I don't know. I just kind of usually attribute it to the fact that since he's emerged, she's embodied her hawk goddess or whatever it is, and so that's where I just assumed the strength came from. That it just kind of like comes out naturally in a fight. I bought it, but that's just my take.
For me, I kind of attributed it to that. When her wings come out, that gives her maybe not so much the goddess strength, but she's got the momentum behind her, because you always see them flapping their wings to get a little more oomph to their shots.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Like I said, her wings did not come out, and after her few punches, she just kind of gives him a shove to the chest, and he goes flying like 12 feet back and hits the barrier so hard that it knocks him out. I'm sorry, Kendra's not that strong as a regular person to do that. So their Savage is knocked out.
Yep. Should we talk about our closing scenes within the Vanishing Point?
Sure. Well, because that's what happens. They show up at the Vanishing Point.
They sure do.
And yeah, it looked cool. I mean, I was like, cool, there's a nice visual effect. It looks great. But I wasn't expecting the Vanishing Point to look like that. It just looked like a space station floating in space. I kind of thought there was a bit of creative potential lost there. You're creating the Vanishing Point, the end of time. Make it look like that. Give us something we've never seen before. So
yeah, I know. There's a couple different ways they could have gone with that, I guess.
Yeah, I just for me, I mean, a space station floating in space, it just looked like they were out in the middle of the Milky Way somewhere. No big deal. Not the end of time. I expected there to be some type of edge of the galaxy kind of visual, or edge of the universe or something, I guess is what I'm thinking. But who am I to know? I've never been to the end of time, so how do I know what it looks like?
It's like, but it's hard to get to the quote-unquote edge of the universe, but sorry, universe is expanding. But anyway, we kind of digress. I don't know, I thought it looked cool. I didn't know what to expect, so I thought it was kind of cool. I bought that it would be just kind of like something just sort of hanging out in space, because it's not going to be on a specific, I didn't feel like it would be on a specific planet per se. It would kind of just be its own thing, I guess. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways they could have gone with it, so who knows.
True. All right. Well, what did you think of these ending scenes here at the Time Council?
On the first watch, I did not see it coming at all. I was like, oh, okay, so this is going to work out. They're going to take him in, and they're going to present him, and we're going to come to some sort of conclusion here. Savage will be locked up, whatever. We'll get the next couple episodes to kind of ramp up to the next season. And then he was completely betrayed. He's like, look, I have this proof that Savage has been manipulating time in the Time Councils. That's great. We're going to send him back to 2166. And he's like, wait, what?
No, that was Rip's reaction, though. Was that your reaction, too? Wait,
that was also my reaction. I was not expecting it. On the second watch, I saw all of the clues. Uh-huh. But on the first watch, I was just along for that ride, and we got there, and I was like, what? No.
Well, I think what happened for me is because I wasn't surprised at all, actually. I didn't consciously acknowledge all the clues throughout the episode, but they were there, and I think it was subliminal messaging that led to the end of the episode and led to me not being surprised at all. Mm. Because they were dropping lots of hints that the Time Masters are in league with Savage. That if you look back over the course of the season, they've been dropping hints. Like, the Time Masters they've been so against Rip stopping Savage and doing nothing to help him, and sending the Time Hunters after him. It's been kind of obvious all season long that there's reasons why they don't want him dealing with Savage. So when this point happened, it wasn't a big reveal to me. It was more of I saw that coming feel, even though I didn't consciously knew I saw that coming. It was just the feeling afterwards. Yeah. No, it was kind of one of those things that just clicked everything into place for me. Like, I didn't see it coming, and then once they said it, I was like, oh... Okay, that all makes sense now. I like it. All right. But yeah, and this is where they bring up that Rip can't take the long view of history, and that's the same question. It's like, okay, well, what is the long view? What is Savage's plan? Why is he a good thing? Has he just manipulated you people? I don't get it. Yeah. So that's what I want to know. And again, it's good that this all came out, because it reinvigorated my interest in Savage, and I'm curious if all of our listeners got that feeling too, because there's been so much talk the last few episodes that we're kind of tired of him. Even the Overlord kind of stated it a little bit that, they're stretching it out a bit long. He wasn't feeling as strongly about it as our listeners were, but so I'm hoping everyone else got the same re-energized interest in what is Savage all about. I know I did, and I was definitely on team, let's just get rid of Savage, I'm over him. So. Yeah. So you're back on board now. Like, what is it with him? What's going on? Yeah, I'm interested again. Yeah. Definitely recaptured my interest. I thought this episode was very well done.
especially with the way they wove Savage in and out of it.
Right.
Yeah. That was one of the reasons I gave it such a high rating.
Yeah.
Is because it really, like, turned it around and it kind of brought the season full circle for me.
Yeah, and in discussing this whole thing with you now, I think these points that we just brought up, that it reinvigorated my interest in Savage, and the amount of emotion and tension of this episode, and the amount of information they gave us to answer things, but to also bring up new questions. The new questions they brought up aren't frustrating. They're new questions that have given me the interest back. Mm-hmm. I'm going to bump my rating up to a 9. I'm going to change it because the things that I reduced it to an 8 for are not as strong as the reasons that we were coming up with now to make me want to raise it back up to a 9. So yeah.
Yeah.
You got one last point here about the team being captured.
Well, yeah, just these 2 questions that they kind of leave hanging because we only see Rip imprisoned. So, but they come on board the Waverider. So did they capture the entire team? Did Snart and Sara actually find somewhere to hide? Because he's like, we need to hide and we need to do it now. And she's like, why? And I think he says Alexa again or something like that. And so
are they the only 2? Because we didn't see them in prison, right?
We didn't see anybody in prison except for Rip, but we did see every other character except for Snart and Sara have all of those stormtrooper guys kind of come up to them. Right.
So it looks like it's going to be Sara and Snart to the rescue.
That's what it looks like? I don't know. I mean, they're the only... We didn't technically see anybody else in prison, but they're the only 2 we don't see with a gun pointed at their head.
Right. Cool.
So,
well, I'm excited to see. I can't wait to see
I'm excited to see how it ends. Yeah, exactly.
Well, what does this leave us? 2 episodes to go?
Yeah.
So it's starting to wrap up.
Yep.
It's coming around full circle. We're going to see what happens. All right, Harley. So we come now to our flashback section because this episode had a lot of flashbacks and we felt that they were very strong and important enough to the episode, like very integral to this episode. So we wanted to talk about them separately apart from the regular.
Yeah, it does to kind of not mess as much with the flow of the main storyline discussion. But so we'll just kind of go in order that they appeared. So,
okay. I
mean, the first one was ancient Egypt, and we see Rip being held captive by Vandal Savage, which was kind of cool.
Right.
Yeah, and then he tells him, basically he says, I'm trying to save the world from you. And Savage, he's like, so what do you know about the future? So he goes all the way back to almost the beginning of Savage's lifetime and gives away the fact that he knows what happens in the future. It just, that kind of, as much as I loved this scene and the insight that we got between these 2 characters, it killed me again that's what he did.
Well, I think Rip was, especially at the very beginning, he was definitely acting solely on emotion.
Oh, yeah. Well, because he goes from, his family being killed back to ancient Egypt. We know that was his first stop.
Exactly. But as you said, I actually really loved seeing them go back to Egypt to this point in the timeline, because we're seeing more of this backstory getting filled in. I've always wondered what happened to Rip after his first attempt, because he hesitated in killing Savage and then he got caught. And that was all we ever saw. So I've always been wondering what happened. And it was great to get a little more filler to that backstory. I only chuckled a little bit when they showed him in prison and Savage makes that comment, oh, you're suffering from lack of food and water. And Rip stands up or whatever. He looks exactly the same as we've seen him all season. I'm like, come on, you could have done a little better to make him look like he's been mistreated for whatever length of time. Make him look a little skinny and, a really long beard or shaggy hair or something. He doesn't look like he's been in prison more than an hour.
A little bit more disheveled.
Yes, but still, very cool that they went back to give us some more history there. Loved it. Yeah,
it was. So the next one we see is, we go to Central City and we see Jax and his mom, and we start learning that these are just before the people start to disappear on their mission. And because he makes reference of, oh, I need just to go by the university. I have to say goodbye to a friend who's leaving on a long trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is when you just get a nice interaction between Jax and his mom, and you can see how important that relationship is. And then he gets his father's watch from his from his mom, and it's so that he's late for dinner at his grandmother's, which he never shows up to.
Right. And I mean, that was a neat little time because we saw the watch in the scene when he got hit by the time drive wave. So that was a cool little connection to it. But yeah, I thought it was just really nice to see because we got a lot of the story when in the pilot episode when they were all deciding to go, he was so worried that he's not going to get to say goodbye to his mom. So it was nice to see, like, all we went on was by what he said. It's not, oh, he's got a good relationship with his mom. He really loves her. That's cool. Now we got to see that, and they worked it really well. You could see the mother and son bond there. It was really nice. Mm-hmm. And then I found it also tied into when we got to see his dad in the hospital as well, because, you know, the story that we knew was that he never got to see his dad, and his dad died in the war. So here's his mom giving her the watch that she had meant to give to his dad. And so it's just, they really tied it all in really good to everything we've seen over the course of the season. They tied it in really well. It was nice. It was touching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like that it fills in the gaps of them first leaving. So then next one here, we go to Star City. Mm-hmm. And we see Ray's last conversation with Felicity before he starts going through time. Apparently he wasn't actually planning to talk to anybody. Well, to talk to her at least. He was just going to leave her a note and say, hey, bye. Going off to travel through time.
Well, you have to remember his mindset back then. He had just found out that he died in the future and nothing became of him. Nobody cared. Nobody thought of him. Nobody remembered him. He was just a nobody. So he was at a very low point, thinking that he's a nobody. So he wants to go to the future and change that. He was just at a very low point after finding out about that tidbit of news. So I can understand why he didn't want to really say goodbye to anybody.
Well, I mean, he doesn't think there's anything left there for him because Felicity's with Oliver.
That too.
And so he's like, because I think he says, I would have stayed for you.
I would have stayed for you, yeah.
But she's with somebody else. And so, I don't know, he ultimately wants to make the world a better place, and tying in with what you said, this is the only way he can do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how did you feel seeing Felicity, though? Because I know people have been very upset with her on Arrow lately. And this was kind of a flashback to the Felicity that we all loved before things kind of got a little
crazy.
A little too different with her.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I was definitely in the camp of, I think it was the episode 11:59 where she's only in the last 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. Didn't miss her at all, not one bit. So I thought this scene was good. It was kind of a go back to the old Felicity that we've been wanting on Arrow. So
yeah, I thought it was a great scene with her. She was herself, the performer. She is a good actress, and it was just a great.
Absolutely.
It made me remember how I loved her on Arrow back then, and it's also very touching because even from the get go, I think her and Ray are a perfect match for each other. And
yeah, I do too.
They're the pair that should be together, not Ray and Kendra, not Oliver and Felicity. It should be Ray and Felicity. They suit each other. They're perfectly matched. And you could see it even in this scene. The way Ray talks to Felicity is so much different than the way he talks to Kendra. Mm-hmm. You can see the connection, the sentiment that he has towards talking to her. There's so much more already built up there. It was a very noticeable difference.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I like them better together. But we'll see what happens. So we get our next one, and this is Ananda Parbat.
Nissa!
Exactly.
My favorite.
They're and Nissa together again. That was a very good scene. It was just very touching. I loved the performances and the chemistry between the two of them. It was very good.
That is the power of the acting by Katrina Law. It doesn't matter which of these shows she guest stars on, Flash, Arrow, Legend of Tomorrow. She has a scene that lasts all of 45 seconds long. Mm-hmm. She's so powerful at commanding the scene in her performance. She is just awesome. That was a really emotional moment. And
very well done.
And the fact that because I've met her in real life and had a good conversation with her, I know how she is in real life, which really, really emphasizes why she's so good at acting this role of Nissa. It's amazing.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Our last flashback is...
It's back to Central City. And then we see Dr. Stein and Clarissa. She's trying to convince him to walk away from his work and go to lunch. And in his way, he just kind of brushes her off, but not in a rude way. But in his way, he gets to say goodbye to her without, letting her know what's going on, because he thinks he can just come back, and it's like she'll never know he was gone.
Exactly. And again, also a very nice scene.
It was very touching.
Yeah. It was it was really nice because this scene came right after he threw Jax on the jump ship and sent him back to 2016. So we went from that powerful, emotional, oh my God moment to him having to say goodbye to his wife. It was a really nice transition. Because what he had said to Jax earlier is that, tell my wife, what did he say to her? He said, she didn't get the proper goodbye that she deserves.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so it was just really nice to see the flashback and to bring her back again, because we've seen her on the Flash a few times, and she was a main focus on the pilot episode when he was so worried about screwing up his first meeting with her. So it was nice to see her, and that's what's so great about these flashbacks in this episode. It tied together all the emotion and all the family connections and the love connections that these characters had to leave behind.
Yeah, exactly. And it was either last episode or a couple episodes ago where it was a giant nitpick for us that the fact that they didn't do this, that we didn't have the flashbacks and see these scenes. So it was very nice to have that actually happen.
Thanks, writers. I don't know if you got that from us, but we're going to take credit for that.
We're going to take credit for it. Yes. All right. Well, do you have any other final points that you want to talk about in the main discussion? Or?
No, I think we covered it really well. I have to say, even after upping my rating, it's kind of funny. At the beginning of this podcast, I was kind of, feeling okay about everything. I rated it an 8. Feeling okay, but I wasn't sure how talking about this episode was going to make me feel. And as we've gone through it, my excitement has been building, and now we're near the end of it, and I'm all energized and excited, and I want to re-record, and let's talk about it more, because now it's sinking in, just how good this episode actually was.
It was a really good episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, since we really enjoyed it and it was a really good episode, we still have to find our nitpicks of the week.
Form of water.
So what did you come up with, Harley?
I came up with Ray letting his emotions get the better of him, even though this isn't, I don't know that it's like a true nitpick, because it kind of had to happen, because Savage has to get out at some point. But, he knew what Savage was doing. He still lets him into his head, and he lets the emotions take over. And I was just like, no, don't do it, Ray. You know exactly why he's saying this. You're just playing right into it. And then to kind of piggyback off of all of that, shouldn't Gideon have seen what was happening and just locked Savage into his cage? That bothered me.
Yeah, you would think.
I thought she was a little bit more interactive.
More aware of everything going on within the ship. Yeah, I don't.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Where does she go at times? Because a lot of things happen on the ship that she should. Yeah. You would think her programming would just allow her to interfere with and stop, because she knows it's against safety protocols or whatever. So I don't. Yeah, it's kind of funny that.
I know. I thought that was interesting. But anyway, that was mine.
I'm not sure. Yeah, you kind of saw that Ray was going to be the one that cracked.
Mm-hmm. What about you? What was your nitpick?
Well, I think mine, is kind of minor too, because it's just something I pulled out of the episode that made me laugh, and that's why it's a nitpick, because I'm kind of slapping my forehead going, dope, what did they, and it's really just because you're this far in the future, and the time ship, Waverider, and all the stuff comes from the very end of time, the Vanishing Point, that's where all of this stuff originates, all their technology and everything. So you're telling me that at the end of time, they are still printing maps on old parchment? Really? Where would Rip even get a hold of those? Seriously.
I don't know. I agree. I thought that was kind of odd.
It kind of looked like he's on an old pirate ship from the 1700s, and he pulled out a rolled up scroll off the shelf. Hey, where are we going to go hunt for treasure next? That's what it looked like.
That's exactly what it felt like. And I wonder if that was, just a creative thing. Be like, hey, let's make it look, since they're, since they're technically pirates, time pirates, they're piloting a ship on this river. Let's just kind of play into that.
There you go, which is kind of fun.
But yeah.
But then tell
it's
me.
fun, but yeah, I completely agree.
So now tell me, just how do you print the timeline on paper? How is that even possible? You're recording all of time on a piece of paper. I do not think that is even possible.
And plus, it's always changing.
Yes.
So that's a neat trick.
So how can you look at a piece of paper and plot your course through time? Yeah.
I don't know.
There.
Maybe it was just a general directions on the time stream. I have no idea. I hear you. I don't disagree with you there.
There you go. There's my nitpicks.
All right.
So, brings us to Harley's favorite section.
The quote of the week.
Quote of the week.
Shape out an eagle!
And because this episode was so good, what are we going to do?
I think, Harley, we discussed this and we came to an agreement. We've got a special bonus for our listeners. This is going to be double quote of the week.
Dun, dun, dun.
I need to put my voice in like some echoey chamber when I say that. Double!
That's what we need one of those mixer things for, to make an echo effect.
Make an echo effect, exactly. I want to be like the big announcer voice. The double quote of the week.
I know.
All right, what do we got this week? We're splitting it up into two categories because there were just too many good ones in this episode that we had to include them all.
Yes, we did. All right, so we got the first section, which is going to be funny quotes.
The funny quotes, all right.
And the first quote is the telegram.
It's been a blast, Rip. Good luck getting to the Vanishing Point.
Tell your pals Cronus says kiss my ass.
All right, and quote number 2.
Entitled.
Who are you to stand up against me? Vandal Savage, destroyer of empire. Leonard Snart, robber of ATM.
And our third funny quote.
Peacemaker.
We're endeavoring to resolve this without bloodshed.
And how's that working out for you, Gandhi?
I love our title for the fourth one. What's our fourth quote?
Dinky Cars. That is a pretty good title.
Like my ride?
Those are some pretty high wheels.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your new name.
I hope people are enjoying our titles as much as we are because
I'm having a good time with it.
just creating them is fun because we look at the quote and we're trying to think of a title that relates to the quote but doesn't quite give away what it's going to be.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, so those are our 4 funny quotes. Now our second section is dramatic quotes because there was just some good lines that were being spoken in this episode that just had depth to them and had meaning to what was going on and kind of make you think a little bit.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of great stuff.
All right, so what's our first dramatic quote?
Fuel for the fire.
You showed a caveman fire, and I had almost 200 years to figure out how to strike a flame.
And our second one?
One-upping. That is a pretty good name, I must say.
You might be a time master, but I'm a master of time. And I play a far deeper game than you could ever hope to comprehend.
And our third and final dramatic quote?
Words of wisdom.
And live a life unburdened by your past. It's easier said than done. Anything worth doing always is.
All right, so how are you going to do this on the Facebook page this time, Harley?
I am actually going to create 2 polls because of the way that I set up the options for the polls. It works better if everybody can't vote for multiple things or vote more than once. So I'll set up 2. I'll do one that's a funny quote for this episode and then another one that is the dramatic quote for this episode.
All right, Legendaires, so that means you've got lots of voting to do.
Yes.
We want as many votes as possible to get clear winners, and yeah. And that brings us to feedback.
Purgatory powers, activate!
All right, well, we got a little bit of feedback this week, and I guess because last week, which hasn't been released yet, we put a call out to everybody to inundate us with feedback because we want a whole ton of feedback. We want a wave riding ship full of feedback that we could dedicate. That's a lot of feedback, but we want to dedicate an entire episode to just answering feedback. So, with there only being 2 episodes left, Harley had the great idea that maybe we do that for the finale episode because that's going to be a big time break for us, so we could do our regular episode and then have a bonus feedback responding episode. So I thought that was a good idea. So this is your pre-warning, guys, that we really, really want to do this. So I'm going to throw out a number there because we've been averaging 3 to 4 feedbacks through most of the season. We had two episodes that we got quite a few. I think we got like up to 6 or 7. But we've been averaging 3 or 4. And so I want to clear the number 10. If we can get at least 10 feedbacks, we'll do a bonus episode. Does that seem fair?
That seems great. Let's get on it, people.
All right.
Come on, send in your feedback. We want your theories.
And they got to be good feedbacks, not little one-liners. They got to be good feedbacks. So
get some meat in there.
Exactly.
If we're going to dedicate a whole episode to it.
So we have something to respond to. All right, so going on to this week's episode, we had 3 emails, and we actually had, I'm going to open it with a tweet, because we had a tweet from Ken from Chicago. He only ever tweets us, and I'm kind of questioning what he's meaning. I wanted to get your feeling on this, Harley, because he tweeted us saying that Legends of Tomorrow, this week's episode deserves a theme song, and he sent us a YouTube link. I don't know if you saw it. Did you check it out, Harley?
No, I have not seen it.
Okay, well, it links to a cartoon song called Dumb Ways to Die. Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
Okay, well, it's actually a funny song, but it's a little animated cartoon, and the lyrics are singing about all the dumb ways to die, like, as example, sticking a fork in the toaster, or walking onto the train tracks when a train is coming, or whatever, all these different things. So that it's just a fun, goofy little song about all the dumb ways to die, and the animation is showing these little cute characters getting maimed, chopped in half, whatever. So he linked this to our episode, saying that Last Night deserves this song, and I can't understand where his point is coming from. Dumb ways to die. Any idea?
No, because Carter didn't die. Did anybody die?
No, I mean, Jax didn't die. He got sent back in.
Yeah, sent back in time. I don't know, Ken, you might have to follow up. You can follow up via Twitter, follow up via email, Facebook, whatever you feel like doing, but we might need a little bit more context, because I'm not sure I'm following, although that video does sound quite funny.
Well, hold on one sec here, Harley, and I will send you the video link in Skype, and you can take a quick look at it.
All right. It's pretty funny. I still don't know where he's going with it, but it's funny. I just watched like the first minute of it.
So there you go, Ken. Yeah, if you could give us a little bit of follow up to that, what you're referring to, then maybe we can respond a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a very funny video though. I will say that. I enjoyed it.
All right, so we have an email from Meg, Killer Frost.
Excellent. She says, "Hello, Wonder Twins. Another okay episode this week. Nothing spectacular that blew me out of the water. I would give this episode 7 out of 10 bottles of beer and sugar-free snacks." Well, hopefully we changed your mind a little bit. But let's read the reasons why. After 14 episodes, I still can't seem to get invested in Kendra, Carter, Ray, or Savage, or even Rip. Interestingly, 4 out of the 5 had very little screen time on the other Arrowverse shows, so a lot less knowledge about their past equals no attachment. And sadly, the bulk of the storytelling lately has gone to the characters mentioned above. I hate love triangles. The only thing that could have redeemed this one was if Kendra decided to say, "Screw fate, I'm sticking with Ray." But no, we have to suffer through the "this is my destiny" trope. That's a fair statement.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were going to take that any other way, unfortunately. I don't remember enough of the Firestorm origin on The Flash, so help me out. Wasn't there something about the 2 characters not being able to be apart from each other, or did they fix that? Or am I imagining it? Jackson and Stein had a great plot this week, but they should have had some more screen time to let it expand.
Okay, well, they can, when they're separated, it takes a little while for the effects to set in. So if you remember on Flash, once Ronnie Raymond disappeared, it was actually a couple days before the effects started happening to Stein. So yeah, we won't see that quite yet.
Yeah, and he does acknowledge the fact that he's basically signing his own death warrant. So.
Right. So he knows what's coming.
Yeah, he knows the ramifications of doing what he did. All right, she continues. The flashbacks were done right this week.
Totally agreed. Yep.
And she says, "Captain Lance, I love it and probably got way too excited about it. Like father, like daughter. Anyone else expecting Savage to tell Sarah about Laurel? Yes and yes.
Yeah, we were waiting for it, but still.
Yeah. No, but I did like the whole Captain Lance thing. That's pretty funny, how she's not becoming captain. Anyway. Like I said, it was an okay episode. I enjoyed watching it, but it didn't blow me out of the water. Next week should be good. Can't wait to see how they escape. Until next time, Killer Frost, aka Meg.
Actually, just to make another point, I didn't click on the Captain Lance bit, hence Lance on Arrow. I didn't click while I was watching it. The two of them are both Captain Lances, so that was a good pickup there, Killer Frost. That was funny.
That was. I didn't catch it until I read her feedback. I was like, oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. And then you kind of responded as you were reading it, Harley, but her very first point there, that she still can't get invested in Kendra, Carter, Ray, or Savage. I think we're agreeing with part of that and disagreeing with part of that, because hopefully we changed how you feel towards Savage, because it has for us. Hopefully you connected a little bit with Ray this episode because of what he's going through. And hopefully the Kendra and Carter bits kind of start making sense that this is the way it has to be between the two of them, and everybody should just stop. They should just stop trying to not be with each other. You know, like Kendra needs to realize that it is Carter and it's always going to be Carter. So don't hurt anyone else's feelings anymore.
Yeah,
exactly. She did it to Ray and she did it to Cisco. So yeah.
Yeah, she definitely did.
So hopefully you feel better about some of those things, and listening to us, I think on the biggest point I'm concerned is that you reconnect to the interest in Savage like we have.
Yeah. Great feedback, though.
Yeah,
I love
you.
that.
That was awesome. All right, and then our next email is from Kelly, aka Master Wordsmith.
All right. So, she writes, didn't see that twist until I walked into the forum of the Time Masters. Time Gods? Time Lords? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what they are. I can't remember what they are anymore. But they do act like gods, that's for sure. When I saw the leader's reaction with Vandal's smug face, I knew it wasn't going to go Rip's way. The interactions with prisoner Vandal got me mad. He tried to bait each member, but Sarah and Gray were smarter. Yep. I
wonder why they got you mad, though. You didn't like the scenes and how they were played out. You thought all the people were not realizing that he's trying to bait each one of them, because they weren't really talking to each other. Oh, hey, this is what I said to Vandal. What did you say to Vandal? Like, I don't know, what part of that makes you mad?
Maybe just the manipulation part, I would think. I don't know. She continues, love that Snart has that sixth sense for when things are going to go horribly wrong. Too bad the rest of the team doesn't. Seriously. Could we be getting ready for season 2? Sarah's the new captain of the ship. Still think Rip's days are numbered. Lastly, I feel sorry for Ray, but what if the season finale has Ray meeting up with an alternate time dead fiancée, Anne, but she's very much alive? That would be interesting.
Huh.
If we kind of got into a different timeline here.
Yeah.
She's been mentioned a little too much. Even at the end of the episode, he mentions her, but not Felicity. Very interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, see you in the funny pages.
I think another possibility is Felicity is now available again.
That's true. We talked about that a little bit.
So maybe they reconnect.
We'll have to see.
Maybe she realizes that he's been gone, and yeah, who knows? That's a point for sure.
Oh yeah. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah. Great feedback as always.
This consistency. All right, we got one more from. Well, he didn't tell us anything about his superhero name, so it's going to be Sidekick Denny yet again.
Sidekick Denny. Okay, sorry, Denny.
That's it. You're going to live with it until you come up with something new for us. All right. Dear. Greetings, Flash and Harley. Missed last week's deadline for mail, but definitely have comments for last week. Oh, should this be pre-show? I didn't pre-screen this. This might be pre-show feedback.
No, it's not. He talks about this episode as well.
Okay.
I already screened it.
All right. It was cool seeing a supersized Atom fighting a giant robot, and of course something comes up preventing Kendra from finally ending Savage. Oh, that's last week's episode.
Yeah, but the second paragraph is this week's episode.
Okay, so this is a dual feedback. All right.
Yep.
Had to be expected, though, when it just so happens one of Savage's men come in at that instant. Was it just me, or did anyone notice that despite Snart and Rory teaming up, they didn't have any interaction with each other? I'm sort of surprised Rip did not know about the existence of Savage's offspring. Could it be possible that he has other children as well?
Definitely.
That's you know what? That was a point in our notes, and I think we skipped over it by accident. I wanted to say that it answered my question from last week. This week's episode did, because I was questioning, has Savage had more children? I mean, the guy's 4,000 years old. He had to have had more than one kid. And it turns out he's had hundreds of them, and he's had to watch them grow old and die in his arms. So it answers two questions, actually. Yes, he has had kids, and they do not gain any immortality from being part of his bloodline.
Nope, they sure don't. It's definitely all to do with that curse / love poem / whatever meteor.
Right.
That is true.
Was it just me, or did anyone notice that despite Snart and Rory teaming up, they didn't have any interaction with each other? Is he talking about Snart and Rory?
Yeah, so like in the last episode, they were like working together, but they weren't like interacting together.
Okay.
They were kind of just functioning together.
Mm. Well, that's probably just them getting used to trusting each other and being teammates again. And buddy bonding.
Yeah, and we may have touched on that in our last podcast, which will be released soon.
All right, so the second half of his email. For the next episode, it looks as if the crew enjoys confessionals with their captives as we see them giving Savage regular visits. Yeah, that is kind of a theme, isn't it? The confessionals with their prisoners.
Yep.
By sending Jax off, does that not mean Jax himself will eventually become unstable and explode along with Stein? So would it not have been better for Stein to go with him back to 2016? Does
it affect Jax? I know it affects Stein.
That's an interesting question, because we didn't see that even with Ronnie Raymond. Oh, no. Yeah, that's a good question. They've never actually, I'm trying to think, but they've never actually touched on that. They only have ever shown Stein being the one susceptible to the separation. Interesting. I'm not sure. It could be because they're two halves of a whole. Maybe Stein's half is the unstable half. That's about all.
Perhaps. Yeah. I don't know. They've never addressed it.
Okay. We'll have to see. Carter finally comes back just to almost get killed once again by Savage. Was one of those already moments. Despite their efforts to present Savage to the Time Council, we find that the Time Council was in fact assisting Vandal Savage. It'll be interesting to see what motivated them to assist Savage in ruling the world. Can't wait to see what happens next time for our time-traveling heroes. Regards, Denny. I think it's not so much ruling the world, I think it's ruling all of time or something.
Something like that, yeah. I'm very interested to see what the end game is.
And that's exactly what we're talking about, reinvigorating our interest in Savage and his story and what is going on. So this episode, I think, really brought that full circle again. And now I'm excited for how it's going to end.
Yep.
And yeah, definitely Carter comes back for all of moments and then dies again. Or gets stabbed in it.
He's not dead, but yeah, I thought he was at first. I was like, what? What?
Too funny. Well, thank you, Sidekick Denny, for your email. It's good to have you on board again. And thanks to everybody else as well. So, again, just a reminder to get you all on board for our finale episode. We want enough feedback to do a second bonus episode. The minimum number is 10. That's what we're shooting for. So hit us up.
Yes, we would love to hear from you.
All right. So to get in touch with us, if you want to be part of this feedback discussion and help us out, you can send an email to cybercastfan@gmail.com. Remember to get those in by 8 p.m. Eastern on Fridays after the show aired on Thursday. You can also come to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/group/Tomorrow's Legends. You can probably just search Tomorrow's Legends and you'll find it. You can also follow our Twitter account @Cybercast. I really must get on there a little more. I don't do much on it, but you can talk to us and we'll respond. How's that? All these details can be found on our website, tomorrowslegends.libsyn.com. You can subscribe to iTunes there, download our episodes, leave comments, which we haven't seen yet on the website.
No, we haven't. I've not seen any.
And then also leave us a rating on iTunes. We talked about that, I think, last episode or 2 episodes ago. We really want to get some more ratings, please, because that'll help boost our visibility to other people that might want to check us out, and it could help in other ideas that we may have as well.
Yeah, and leave us a review. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. I mean, that's the only way for us to know, other than if you send us an email along the same lines. So you can always do that. If there's some constructive criticism you want to offer, I mean, we are new podcasters, so we'd be interested to hear it. Just you can send us an email. We'll keep it private. We won't read that one.
No. And we won't take any offense to it either. We're trying to learn and grow, and we want to keep improving the show. I mean,
absolutely.
We are just two fans that decided to start talking about it and record ourselves. So, yeah. But we're trying. We're following in the veins of Central City and Arrow Squad. Those were our...
It's our inspiration. Although we tend to go on a bit longer, but...
yeah, that's okay. We're basically learning from their blueprint, and we're trying to improve upon it and add to it to make it our own. So we just want to know how we're doing with all that. And that is it for us, Harley.
I think that'll do it for this week's episode.
Wow, so we're down to 2 weeks left.
2 more.
I wonder if the last episode's going to be a two-parter, like a 2-hour episode, or they're going to try to wrap things up quickly.
I don't think so, because they would have had to have advertised that already.
Oh, you think so? Yeah.
Well, there's only 2 left.
Well, they might. I mean, they might. On the end of next week's episode, they might say, tune in for our, 2-hour-long finale or something. That's usually when they do it, I thought.
Yeah, normally they'll list them as 2 episodes, even though they aired as a 2-hour finale. So, I think it'll only be an hour, but we'll see.
It would just be nice. I guess that's what I hope for. I like the longer episodes. I always laugh because they advertise a double episode, but all they do is stuff in way more commercials and advertising, and where a regular episode is 42 minutes long, their special 2-hour finale is like 54 minutes long. So you really didn't even add an hour to it. Come on.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. But anyway, I am getting excited for the finale. I am so happy that they reinvigorated this show and its main storyline right near the end, because now I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yeah. It's going to be great.
Yeah. All right, Harley. Well, you have yourself a good rest of your weekend, and same with all the listeners out there. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you in a few days.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Flash is out.
Harley Quinn out.